Hi, my name is Perry. I'm from Tellico Plains, Tennessee, and the video we're going to be making today is called Untraditional Musical Instruments Found in the Appalachian region of the United States. By untraditional instruments, we mean instruments that we generally would not expect to find to be played with old-time music. However, sometimes they were. They just might be the instruments they had around. It might be the types of instruments they could make. Um, there's really no telling where you would find them, but you would not expect to be finding them. So let me start out by saying I'm not an expert at playing all these instruments. I might going to sound funny playing these instruments, but you get me, and that's what we got today. So let me start out with this first instrument here, and probably have not ever seen one of these. Let me get it closer to the camera. This is called a bowed psaltery, and psaltery is spelled with a P. It's got strings across it like the strings of a piano, and it's played with a bow, similar to a violin or fiddle bow. It's got the same types of hair, but it's much shorter in length than the fiddle bow. And we hold it in our laps like this, and we take our bow and we're going to make some music with it. Here we go, the bowed psaltery. Bowed psaltery. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, now we have some fun instruments that even the children or grandma could have played. If you look at these, they look like a pair of spoons, two of them back to back. And I'm kind of cheating with these because they have one common handle that attaches to both of the spoons. Some people just go to their kitchen and get the spoons out of the drawer, but these spoons are just used to keep a rhythm. People can start dancing around with them. They can have one in each hand and start making all kinds of rhythms with the spoons. Here's a pair of spoons carved out of wood. You'll see the little spoon scoopy top here and one on the bottom. Same thing, single handle. I might even use them both at the same time. Spoons. Now, these in my hand, imagine, if you will, the ribs of a cow. You know, ribs all through here. Well, if you had an instrument made out of the ribs of an animal, maybe you would call that instrument the bones. And that's exactly what these are called, the bones. You hold them between your hands, and by rotating the hand in a circular motion, we should get these bones rattling. Hear that clackety, clackety, clackety? And if I had two pairs of them, I'd have me a little symphony going of bones. Really used to be made out of animal bones, but usually today they're made out of plastic or carved out of wood. Let's see, let's keep with some more rhythm instruments. Washboard. Just like the name says, it's a washboard. People would take Granny's thimbles. Granny's old thimbles are not being used anymore. Put them on the fingers, and they would just tap out some rhythms. She'll be coming around the mountain when she calls. She'll be coming around the mountain when she calls. She'll be coming around the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Washboard. Just like Granny's, or maybe even Mama's washboard. Let's look at some string instruments. This instrument, which looks like a guitar from behind for sure, but from the front it's got this big looking hubcap looking thing. That's called a resonator. That helps the sound get louder. But look at the neck on this thing. See, it's deep and it's square. You can't put your hand behind it like a guitar. And the strings are high off the neck, so you can't push the strings down to make chords. This is called a dobro, named after a couple brothers up in New York. It's generally found in what we call bluegrass music, and we talk a little bit more about bluegrass when I pick up another instrument. But the dobro is tuned to an open chord. This happens to be a chord G, and I play it with this piece of metal. Let me get closer to the camera. Just a solid piece of polished, smooth steel. And I just touch this piece of steel to a string, and I move it to the body to go up in pitch, and away from the body of the instrument to go down in pitch. And if I strum the strings all the way across, I get one chord. I put the steel bar on another place, I get another chord. And I can play chords with it. And I can even pick individual notes and make this thing sound like a beautiful steel guitar sound. Dobro. Not generally found in old-time traditional Appalachian music, but it might be. It just might be. See, what else do we have to go to? Okay. Reach down here and pick up my little everybody's favorite first instrument is ukulele. This may have been brought home from somebody who's been traveling to other parts of the country. It's a simple four-string instrument, relatively inexpensive. That's why we might find them around the houses. Perfect instrument for kids to learn on because they're small and pretty simple to strum chords with. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. So ukulele, it's kind of fun. But not generally found in traditional Appalachian music, but you might find it there. Oh, what else we got here? Oh, mother percussion instrument, tambourine. It's a wooden circle with little jingle jangles around the edges and a drum head, and people can hold it and we see a lot of tambourines in folk music. Very inexpensive. Anybody can play one. Anybody who can keep tempo can play them rather well. They hit their palm, hit it on the side of their hand, shake it, put it on the arms. Tambourine. Another type of rhythm percussion instrument is this large thing. It looks like a drum. This is called a bodhrán. It's from Ireland, and it's played with this small wooden, it looks like a stick with some bumps on the end, but it's really called a tipple. And the hand is inside with the fingers or the thumb pressing against the inside of the head, and that helps, gives us different bodhrán. Very transportable and keeps tempo, but it's a non-traditional instrument for Appalachia. And what else we got up here? Oh, something really pretty. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Looks like another small guitar, but it's got strings 4. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. So is it a ukulele or is it a guitar? No, it's called a tenor guitar. Tenor guitars can be tuned many different ways, play different style instruments. I've got this one tuned to a banjo double C tuning, but it's got a very light sound. Tenor guitar. Let me set it back over here. And let's see, we've been through bow psaltery, spoons, bones, washboard, dobro, ukulele, bodhran, tambourine, tenor guitar. Oh, look here what I found. This is a very beautiful instrument called a cello. And it's played with a bow. Remember the bows from the fiddle and the bows for the upright bass? This is a bow for a cello. Similar in construction and design, but it's a different size. And the cello itself looks like a miniature bass, or it could look like a gigantic fiddle. 4 strings and tuned up here at the head on same location as the bass and the fiddle. It can be played with fingers, plucking the strings. Or the beauty of the cello comes from this bowing. And remember, I'm not a cello player, but I can make some sound coming out of it. And out of all the instruments I'm going to show you today, the cello is probably the closest to being a traditional instrument. Some people will tell us that yes, it was used very often in the beginnings of the old-time music. It complements the violin and the old-time banjo very nicely. That's the cello. It was probably found in more economically advantaged families than the typical folks who lived up in the hollers. And if you have seen my traditional videos and my old-time banjo videos, you might recognize the front of this instrument. You might remember the bear. But those instruments had an open back. This one's got the solid back, which acts as a resonator, which projects the sound outwards toward you guys through these holes. And this bluegrass banjo is probably the banjo you'll find in at least 95% of the homes that have banjos. You can play traditional music on the bluegrass banjo, but it's going to be louder. And it's going to sound a little bit different. The characteristic of playing with the bluegrass banjo comes from these picks that I have on my hand. I got a thumb pick and an index finger pick and a middle finger pick. And the bluegrass banjo is known for its banjo rolls, which is just a pattern of picking the strings in sequence. So that's a bluegrass banjo. Most people who play banjos are going to play this type of banjo, as opposed to the open back banjo with traditional Appalachian music. What I didn't bring, because it's too big for me, is a piano. Lots of pianos in Appalachia, especially around churches, and they would accompany the old-time music with the white keys and the black keys. But I didn't bring one of those today. I did bring this instrument that's from England and Germany. And this looks like a little squeeze box or a miniature accordion, and it really is a miniature squeeze box and an accordion type instrument, but it's called concertina. And the music is played by opening and closing the bellows. You can see it expanding. It's not making any musical notes until I press the buttons on the end. There's a series of buttons on one side, 2 rows of buttons, and a series of buttons on the other side. And by pushing buttons down when we're squeezing and pulling the instrument gives us different notes. It sounds kind of like an organ. And I think it's a pretty instrument to kind of keep a background sound. I have some friends who can play concertinas, and they sound beautiful. They can play melodies and back up with this instrument called a concertina. And here's a instrument called Native American flute. And in the Appalachians, we have a lot of many Native American tribes. We know from history, especially in western North Carolina, we have the Cherokee Indians who have a very sad and troublesome history. But they left us, and they still make and play these beautiful flutes with carvings on the end. This is a carving of a galloping horse, usually made out of wood or bamboo. They're usually made with 6 or 5 holes. And I'm going to attempt to play just very simple tones out of this flute. And the Native American Indians had a real close spiritual relationship when they make their instruments. I do have a friend who's Navajo Indian, and he made this one for my wife Diana. But look at it special up close. You'll see that the fingering holes are offset to one side, and up here at the mouthpiece there's 2 holes. This is called a drone flute. And the first time we heard a drone flute, we just stopped and listened, and you'll understand why in just a moment. The drone flute. Let me go. Beautiful instrument, Native American flutes. And I think that's about all I have for you. Bowed psaltery, bones, washboard, dobro, ukulele, bodhrán, tambourine, tenor guitar, cello, bluegrass, banjo, concertina, Native American flute. That's a lot of instruments that we have available to play, but are not considered typical. So will you find them in a band? Maybe. Will they sound nice? If they're played nice, they'll sound nice. So, that's all for this video. My name is Perry from Tellico Plains, Tennessee. Bye.